flossing with that
drop. KCP in the middle, bounce, Larry. Throw that baby down. Oh my goodness.
Dwight Howard, are you kidding? With some anger.
Kyrie get out of that double team. With the hip fake. What a move by Hakeem Olajuwon.
Levine, he goes right.
Oh! Does anybody know how to post videos?
Welcome in to the Drop Step Podcast, episode 26. And a shout out to the fine people at Shack Food Radio. We thank them for their support. Home team, B-Dog, Book the Hook. Gentlemen, how y'all doing this fine podcast number 26?
It's good. Can't complain too much. A lot of stuff we got to talk about that's going on in the league. Free agency, just still some moving pieces around, so it's going to be a good show.
We'll get a chance to get into dynamic duos in the NBA, buddy ball, as I like to call it. A lot of that going on here in the offseason as it looks like it's finally come to an end with all of the big fish. We'll get to Ben Simmons as he gets a big contract. A lot of people are happy about that, certainly those in Philadelphia. Some people are questioning, is it the right time and the right deal for the right man? We'll get into that. Big Baller Brand. How big are they still balling? We'll get into that.
Balling on a budget.
And we'll get to, right out of the chute, the biggie as the final big piece drops. Russell Westbrook leaving Oklahoma City. Chris Paul leaving the Rockets. Chris Paul will be leaving Oklahoma City. Where will be his next destination? First and foremost, Russell Westbrook, I think he needs to be commended for the way he handled himself after Paul George decided to go to management and work a trade to go to LA and play with Kawhi Leonard. And I think Russell Westbrook has been nothing but the consummate professional. He really wanted, I think, to stay in Oklahoma City and build something. Got Paul George, got Carmelo Anthony for a hot second to try to put their own little super team together, and it just didn't work out. But the way he's handled himself, I think, very commendable. And too bad for Oklahoma City that they had somebody who really cared, was really a good face of a franchise, who left everything he could out on a basketball court. Now they don't have that guy anymore. So you have to hate it for those fans. But good luck to him as he now gets a chance to play for a team that has a lot of expectations and a lot of talent.
And like you said, you got to commend Russ. Usually when a Russ gets a guy to come play with him, loyalty is a big thing to him. Stay here with me and we can fight this out and we're going to win together. So when he reacted to Paul George the way that he did when Paul demanded that trade, and Russ is like, bruh, it's all good. I was surprised. I really thought he was going to grill him to PG or give him that KD treatment. And I really thought, look, it's another guy that leaves Russ. It's another guy that is on his hit list. It's another guy that he just doesn't like. But to see that he reacted the way that he did and he understood it, it let me know that Russ knew his days are numbered in OKC as well.
That's exactly what it said to me. When you didn't get that reaction out of him, when he was kind of, humble about it, all right, man, well, best of luck, so on and so forth. You knew the next move was Russell's out of there as well, because he just didn't fit the timeline. And honestly, there's still some questions out there if Steven Adams fits the timeline or if they should go ahead and move that asset for some future assets. So
clear house.
Yeah, absolutely. I support it. Better to do it now than do it, a year later. Go ahead and get that ball rolling, kind of similar to a lot of the other younger teams in the NBA. OKC they got assets out the yin yang right now, so they've got to be able to move some things, flip them, compound some different assets throughout the year. So they're setting themselves up in a real good position to be rebuilding now versus rebuilding later.
I got to give it to Sam Presti. I got to tip my hat to him to be able to, on a whim, basically say, you have Paul George walking to your office, wants to be traded, wants to be sent back home, and to say, you know what, okay, let's get the most that we can for him. And to accumulate the draft picks and the assets that they've accumulated thus far, it allows him to build his team out for the future, and possibly, if you're going to move Chris Paul to sweeten the deal a little bit, you may want to add a draft pick or two just to sweeten that deal to make it a lot better on the other end. So if there's one guy, there's few guys in the league who you would trust building a franchise. Sam Presti is a guy that I'm comfortable enough allowing me to take this thing from scratch and building it back up because of the track record throughout his time there.
And he also had to admit, one, we can't win. Two, we're probably not going to make money. Those are incredible decisions to make when you have guys who can help you make money and help you win, help you go to the playoffs, and help give you a shot to say, okay, we will grant Paul George's request, to your point, and then trade away the former MVP and face of your franchise has to be incredibly difficult. So even with all the assets, you never know what they could turn out to be. They have a lot of first-round picks, so they will have some talented guys. Will you ever get your hands on another MVP, or let alone 3 guys who turned out to be MVPs in Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook?
You just never know. I mean, you never know what talent is coming through the draft. I mean, whoever would have thought they would have landed the 3 that they did, and they turn out the way that they did. You just never know until you get the hands on the guys. You're able to develop them. You're able to see how they fit into your franchise, and you just let them go. And then before you know it, you have something that you never thought you would have again right there in front of you.
One thing that you touched on early on, home team, that can't go or that needs to be recognized on the highest of levels is the amount of love and respect that Russell Westbrook has for Oklahoma City, for the franchise, for the fans, for the team. Like, that's like to see his love, you know, kind of, you know, Russ is kind of, you know, marked as a hothead every now and then, but to see how much he laid it on the line for those guys every single night in and night out. So I really liked and respected his goodbye and his farewell to the fans and to Oklahoma City. I thought that was pretty dope. Hopefully we can get something like that in Atlanta, you know, somebody that has that type of love for the city, for the team, you know, for the folks that they're putting on for. I thought that was a big it needed to be recognized.
Well, this clearly now is always been, but it's clearly a players' league. But what was happening now, the question, you know, should be asked: is this a good thing? You know, players, you know, work hard. They don't get to determine where they play initially because they're drafted, and then once they get drafted and move around a couple of times, they're now having major decisions on franchises in the NBA. So it's a great thing for the Clippers. They got themselves Paul George. It's a great thing for the Rockets. They got themselves Russell Westbrook along with James Harden. But in effect, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have no team. So while it did work out for some, one franchise has been decimated. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. You know, when guys don't want to be there, you pretty much have to honor their requests. The question is there anything that can be done? Are there things that can be done to entice players to stay and try to get 1 or 2 more guys to come with them instead of just leaving a franchise relatively rudderless in the NBA waters?
I look at it like this. Like you said, when you're drafted by a team those first 4, maybe even 5 years, you don't have a choice. You're drafted by this team. You have to play for this team. You know, they're paying you, boom, 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 whatever. When that contract is up, I'm all for players having the option of where they want to go. I'm all for them making their decisions. You know why? Because think about it like this. If a team thinks that you don't fit the mold anymore of what they want to do, if they just don't want you anymore, hey, bro, you know what? We appreciate everything you've done. We're going to get rid of you. And they can get rid of you any single time that they want to. Why? Because you don't fit what they're trying to do moving forward, or you don't fit what they want to do right now. So my thing is, if I'm a player and I know you can do that as an organization, remember, these owners, they're millionaires and billionaires. They've made their money elsewhere. They ain't hurting too much. You know what I'm saying? They're going to make their money.
But that's if you're a free agent. But somebody like Paul George, who was under contract, what happens when a guy is under contract and he doesn't want to play? It's good for the player.
Right.
But now there are 41 home games where the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have trash. That a city and one team doesn't mean anything because of the decision really of one player. Paul George's decision prompted the decision to let Russell Westbrook go so you could get some assets for him. So one decision really started a domino effect for, relatively speaking, the end of the Oklahoma City Thunder for right now.
I can guarantee you that Sam Presti got some phone calls from some other GMs and some other owners around the league that night by just folding, not necessarily folding to what Paul George was looking for, but you gave, like, if you were asking your original question, you know, about it being a players' league, this only adds to that bucket. of it being a players' league.
Right.
It's so much more tilted when you have a move like this, a player under contract for another 3-4 seasons, and you allow him to get his way and to go ahead and move him to where he wants to. That's only solidifying the fact that it is a players' league. But for every one of those instances that you have an instance of a Blake Griffin getting shipped out from Los Angeles with 4 to 5 years left on his contract to head out to Detroit, for the benefit of that team.
Chris Paul.
Absolutely, so it's a give and take situation, but as of today, it's 100% a players' league, absolutely.
And I'm all for it. And I'm all for, and I understand that it decimates an organization, and you have ticket sales, you have season ticket holders that are upset and feel some type of way, and I'm not refuting how they feel, and I'm not refuting what they need to feel, because you've spent your hard-earned money on that. But I think players also have to do what's best for them.
Absolutely.
I don't think a lot of people understand a lot of these players because they're not in their situation.
The only thing I don't understand right now is just leaving other money on the table. I'm just cut from a different cloth. You go play with your buddy, whatever. Your buddy don't live with you. You don't live with him. You don't have grandkids yet. You don't have great-great-grandchildren yet. I don't understand is leaving 10. I don't understand leaving $10 on the table, let alone 10 million, 20 million, $40 million. And so that's the most mind-boggling thing with the free agent situation as it stands now. And maybe this is a trend.
Right.
Maybe this is just this group of free agents. Who knows? But to collectively bargain so that you can get as much money as you can for all the hard work you put in from the time you were a kid to playing in college, or even if you didn't, just go right to the pros, and then to get that opportunity and say, well, I'd rather not have it. I'd rather go play with this guy and win a couple of championships. I don't understand that. If the way I'm cut, if I'm one of these players, I'm thinking I can win if I can get somebody to come play with me.
I get it. I mean, honestly, once you have a number in the front, once that number is in the front of so many zeros, it don't matter how many more zeros you add into the back end necessarily. Yeah. I trust me, I understand what you're saying. That's a lot of, and it's real easy for me to say, sitting over here with my bank account looking the way it looks. But once you have so many zeros at the end, does the number at the front really matter?
Yeah, it could be a lockout, and you don't know when. Yeah,
this is true.
You could end up turning a knee, and I could buy a couple of hotel chains. I'm okay with a couple of fast food restaurants. I'm okay owning a couple of subdivisions.
Absolutely.
Or a trucking company.
Right.
So maybe because I'm a little bit older, and I'm thinking about once the checks stop coming,
right.
I don't want to be sitting on a rocking chair, boy. Yeah, I do have 100 million, but 140 and 140 and 100, those are different numbers.
But I also think it goes into play what investments have these guys made.
Right. That's true.
Right. What else is making them money when they're on the floor or when they're not on the floor, when they're asleep? It's about making smart investments. So
Absolutely.
if I'm taking 10 million here and 5 million here and investing it into something that is feasible and it's lucrative, over time, that money builds. So now I go from having that $10 million investment, I've gone to make $50 million off that investment. So that's other money that I can pocket and I can put aside for a rainy day. Imagine $50 million for a rainy day.
I'm just looking at there are no guarantees, and clearly if they're okay with it, it's their money. So I'm not mad.
Absolutely.
Can't be mad at the guy who says I don't want a max or I don't want to play here for this amount of money. But you start looking around and the flip side of what could happen, kind of like a Boogie Cousins. Sometimes you gamble because you want to go play buddy ball, and you're walking around with less than 10 million, and you're watching, no disrespect. I know he might take offense, but you're watching Julius Randle end up with $63 million, and you're playing after taxes. Your 8 is not 8. Yeah, I don't understand this leaving the money on the table.
Each situation is definitely different. Each situation, a Boogie. I don't get that one. I don't get it. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Him returning to the finals, I think, cost him some money.
Oh, yeah.
Or clearly has cost him some money.
Millions, and he'll never get back.
Absolutely. But I think from a higher, once you start getting into that top tier of free agent, I think just like B-Dog was saying, that money becomes your power, or by passing on that money, you're basically investing more power into your pocket instead of the money. I'll be able to make those decisions on the back end versus making them right now on the front.
I think that is the key thing. You said they were fighting for this in the collective bargaining agreement. But you're fighting for the opportunity. You're fighting for just to be able to have that choice of taking the money or leaving it on the table. Before, they didn't have as much of a choice. Yeah, they were getting paid, but okay, we know that we're still worth more to the league. They fought to get that money now. Now they could toy with it how they want to, and you're going to get these type of teams because they can play with it now.
Yeah, each his own. I can't count another man's money, but I can count the money he's left on the table. And I'm just thinking, if I'm just cut from a different cloth. If I'm Kawhi, whoever Kawhi plays with, they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a contender wherever he goes. So it comes down to what's the best fit for him. Where's his happiness? Where does his happiness lie? And going back home, that's a no-brainer to me. So the money that he quote unquote left on the table is one thing.
Right.
I'm talking about these guys that are certainly able to go get more. And you see, just like some people leaving money on the table, Jimmy Butler isn't. Max deal, I'll go to Miami and play for a max deal. So those that want to take it, I guess to Houston's point, the option is there. Yeah. I just can't fathom with it all maybe coming to an end on one turn of an ankle or one snapping of an Achilles. You leaving or chancing any of the money, especially when you have a small window to make it. That's a hard concept for me to grasp.
Absolutely. Guys like, LeBron, KD, Kawhi Leonard, your upper echelon guys, it almost doesn't really matter because not only are they going to make this money on the floor, but you look at the money they're going to make off the floor to kind of make up for what they're missing or what they left on the table from where they came from. So those guys are looking at it like, you know what? I know this money is great, but I've been in the league for quite some time now. I know what good money looks like, but I also want to be happy. Now, other things are coming into the fold. What's the front office look like? Do I want to live here? Yeah. What relationships do I have? So I'm looking at other aspects because I know I'm part of the upper echelon. I'm going to make my money. I'm not going to run out of money because I've made smart investments as well.
Prime example would be Anthony Davis. He gave up, the signing bonus to try and give more money to get Kawhi. He knew there's a chance he wasn't going to see that money. Or now even without getting Kawhi, you don't get that money. So now you lost that for what? Well, no, you lost it because I got Space Jam still. You know what I'm saying? There's more ventures out there for me. So at the end of the day, I think you're seeing a trend of the guys where it's something that I think for our culture, period, we've been talking about forever. Hey, it's not about me getting it. It's about me getting it and bringing people with me. Me being able to spread the wealth around. The guys are able to do that a little bit more now, and that's what the Lakers just did. They said, all right, we could try for Kawhi, but if that don't work, we know we could spread that love out now. So I think it works out both ways.
Yeah, you just don't. You got to be happy. You got to be okay with whatever your number is. And like we say, we've seen Jimmy Butler take a max deal, go to Miami. Don't know how close that gets them to a championship with all the stuff in the East. Probably not a whole lot. But if Chris Paul shows up down there, maybe that gives them a better chance, especially in the East where there are only a few teams at the top without KD being there in Brooklyn. So, to each his own. It'll be interesting. I'm just interested right now to see if it'll be if this is a trend or something that is going to become part of the fabric of the NBA. Because the other thing is, and Mark Cuban touched on this a few years ago when he was saying, he was getting in the NFL's business when he was saying that, these big contracts and businesses don't always grow. There could be some slow points. There could be some changing in how people watch TV, how people watch the NFL or the NBA. So, you never know. To each his own, you got to live your life. One guy's living his life, Ben Simmons. Question is, he's going into his third year. Philadelphia has spoken with their money. 5 years, $170 million. They have no interest in letting this man get further down the road. They want him to be a Philadelphia 76er. That's what that extension says to me. The question is, was it necessary, being that he was still on his rookie contract? You could re-up him or give him a little bit more next year, wait and see how this version of Philadelphia plays out, or go ahead and make him one of the faces of the franchise for a long time, and just know that you're going to have him and Joel Embiid running the Philadelphia 76ers.
I mean, either way, I don't think it really, to me, it didn't make much of a difference whether you gave it to him now or gave it to him then. I mean, I think it's one of those things where You got a guy in Joel Embiid who is your franchise guy. You re-signed Tobias. You really got 3 guys who are on $100 million contracts. You have over $300 million tied up into 3 guys who are now your big 3. Tobias Harris now has to become he has to become a big boy now.
4. Al Horford.
And Al Horford. I forgot about that 100. So you have 4 guys. You have over $400 million tied up into 4 guys. Your 3, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris, are your youngest players. Tobias is going to have to take another huge step because you got big boy money. Yeah. Either way it goes, I knew Ben Simmons. You knew Ben Simmons was going to get this money. You just depended on whether it was going to be now or whether it was going to be then. I don't think it mattered. They were going to keep him there. They see him as a pivotal part of this franchise, whether he gains a jump shot or not.
Yeah, I want to get that in a second.
I think they're betting on, okay, he's going to get in this gym. He's going to work in the offseason. He's going to at least be respectable from mid-range and maybe to the three-point line, and hoping that his game evolves and it rounds out much more than what it really is. Because getting to the basket, he's unstoppable.
I think both of y'all just missed it. I think
I
think the convo that we just previously moved on from connects to this convo now.
Interesting.
The fact that Ben Simmons is now under contract for 5 years.
Okay.
Ben Simmons is the one on the hot plate now, not the Philadelphia 76ers. If Ben Simmons does not produce or turn into what he's capable of, Philadelphia has all the leverage at this point.
Okay.
Like he's an easily movable piece now that's locked down for the next 5 to 7 years, actually, based on it being an extension. So, like, he's the one that he's got the pressure on him now.
Absolutely.
I feel like Philadelphia, if they decide to move on from him, and we touched on this in past podcasts, I don't think that they mesh well together, Embiid and
we did talk about that.
Ben Simmons. So
right.
by having him locked down, you kind of continue your trial period, which we were bound to do for the next 2 years, regardless, based on him being on that rookie deal.
Right.
But now you've invested in it a little while longer to where if you have to move on from him, he's already locked up, signed up, sealed, and delivered to be able to move to another team. And I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up happening.
But we did talk about when we had that conversation, who would more likely go between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? And I said it would be Joel from the standpoint of injury instances. The best ability is availability. He has back issues. Mm-hmm. You know, he may end up having knee issues. As a big man, you need him to get in some level of shape because the way they want to play and getting up and down the floor, can he get up and down the floor with the rest of those guys? Now, you got Al Horford there who ain't the fastest man on the planet, so you may slow the pace down a little bit. But when you have Ben Simmons out on a break and he wants to go, I don't necessarily see Ben Simmons running with those guys getting down the floor.
Neither do I.
No. So my thing is, if one had to go, I really think it would probably be Joel Embiid.
Well, yeah, and I'm with you. The injury and the health concerns for Embiid are the question marks on him. The upside on Simmons justifies the extension. My question is, what is the acceleration rate and what are the markers? Because can the man go left like he needs to? Can the man shoot free throws like he needs to? Can the man shoot jumpers like he needs to? Can the man shoot three-pointers like he needs to? There are a lot of things, and he is unique. Maybe he's unique and he doesn't have to have those things happen that quickly, because if you can be Rookie of the Year, if you can be an All-Star, if you can be one of the league leaders in assists and be an effective scorer at the rim, maybe you don't need to do all those things, but eventually the scouting report is going to catch up to you. Mm-hmm. Eventually there's going to be a series when they need you to hit some of those open shots, and if you aren't at the level that Philadelphia needs you to be, because there are things not that you're not doing well, you can't do, that's a problem. He can't shoot free throws well. He can't shoot three-pointers right now, and those are the questions I have when you give a man 5 years, $170 million.
Well, my thing is, it's about the difference between being good and being great. Is he really good right now?
He's good.
Yes, because he has the court vision. He's a big point guard. He has the court vision. He can rebound, and he can get to the basket like no other. But there's still room for him to improve, and we know where that is.
Yeah.
His ability to shoot the basketball.
This is you touched on it just a second ago. This is a half-court team now. Like, if it wasn't already a half-court team, like, it's definitely a half-court team now.
Definitely
running
now.
with Al Horford and Joel Embiid on the court. Like, so at that point, half of what Ben Simmons is effective at is taken away. in the half-court game. So I just can't see a scenario where this team is able to coexist on a long-term platform and make a run deep into the playoffs. Granted, that's going to work a little bit better once it is playoff time, but what's the point of Ben Simmons? What's he affecting at that point if we slow the game down and run a half-court game at that point?
Yeah, and I want to know, ultimately, bringing in Al Horford, losing Jimmy Butler, losing J.J. Redick, this version of the Sixers, where is it in the East? Because I still think, Milwaukee's going to be at the top of the heap. Toronto's going to come down, obviously, a peg without Kawhi. And then where are the Sixers? Where are the Nets? Where are the Celtics with the additions that they made to their clubs? The Sixers have a really good opportunity with the young guys that they have and Al Horford, I think. But I just want to see which version of the Sixers is better. And now Ben Simmons doesn't have to worry about money. Doesn't have to worry about where he wants to be. He knows he's going to be the guy in Philadelphia, and how soon he can get better. We'll all have fun watching him do it.
And I always said that the J.J. Redick, letting go of J.J. Redick is going to hurt the most, because now you've taken away an outside shooter, which makes it even more pivotal for me, in my opinion, that Ben Simmons develops an outside shot, because who else is going to take those outside shots? You've just let go of one of the league-leading three-point shooters in the NBA. Now he's in New Orleans. Now what other options do you have? Your options are dwindling now.
Yeah.
So now it puts more emphasis on Ben Simmons. Hey, Ben, we need you to at least become respectable from 15 feet. We need you to work on this, because we've limited ourselves now on outside shooting.
100% agree, bro.
Buddy ball is starting to take over the NBA. Not just one or two teams, a lot of teams. You look at the Lakers, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. You look at the Rockets, now James Harden and Russell Westbrook. You look at, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You're starting to see a trend now, which one of these duos, a lot or a few of these guys are not going to get it done. Somebody's going to be eliminated and somebody's going to be at the top of the heap, and legacies get affected, franchises get affected, and a lot of these guys, they're not locked into 5 years. They can opt out after 3 years. They can opt out after a couple of years and maybe decide to do some different things. But this buddy ball trend is starting to be a big deal, and it's starting to emphasize the importance of relationships of and between players of the highest magnitude.
And this is where the Olympics come into play, off-season workouts come into play. These guys communicating, it puts more emphasis on when you see guys covering their mouths now and they're talking to one another. Or what are they talking about? Like I said, just them working out together in the offseason. Hey, what do you think about us, at some point in time playing, I got a year or so left on my contract. I know you maybe got a year or two. When that time is up, what do you think about us joining forces somewhere? This team will have this cap space. This team will have this cap space. What do you think about us, going over here and kind of wreaking havoc on the league together? So everybody has everybody's number. Everybody know where everybody is. So when these players create these relationships, that's where that added power comes in. Because now, look, I'm a star, you're a star, we have this leverage. We can make this move.
Even more of a players' league. This would be the perfect time for NBA Jam to come back out.
Hilarious. You're absolutely right.
The two players. Like, we need to run that back real quick, man. So I love it. I think it gives the NBA a little bit more parity. We don't know which direction the ball is going to bounce once it's regular season. We're not already predicting, a Golden State Finals run. So we got some things to look forward to. You can watch basketball on a nightly basis and have some intrigue, and as well as have some star power. It's spread out.
Right.
It doesn't matter when you head down to State Farm Arena now. You're more than likely going to see a team coming in there with someone on the marquee.
At least be interesting.
Absolutely. So I think it's a good thing for the NBA. I don't know how long it'll last. I do think that it's all based on relationships. Your relationship with other players and your name, the way it carries weight around other athletes, is what it really means, is what it boils down to. If people are able to attach to you and roll with you, then that says something to other players around the league as well. It's kind of like a snowball. Once it gets rolling, it gets bigger. So.
And there are only a few big markets who don't have that superstar. Miami doesn't have that superstar, and New York doesn't have that superstar. But
Well, hold on. What aspect of New York are we talking about?
The Knicks.
Okay.
The New York Knicks.
Forget about Brooklyn. They got
I
two.
was talking about, yeah.
Well, one right now.
That's a clear answer.
Apologize to Nets Nation.
They're in Brooklyn
Knicks
now. Don't
specifically.
disrespect Brooklyn.
You knew what you won.
I just wanted to make sure.
I sympathize. I never thought I would pity the New York Knicks. I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them that a generation of children are going to grow up
never know.
and probably be Brooklyn Nets fans and not New York Knicks fans. Unbelievable.
That's James Dolan's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Dolan is the reason why you Knicks fans can't walk around, Times Square and Manhattan or other boroughs of Brooklyn with a smile on your face. While you looking around, every time you got on a blue Knicks jersey with the orange outline, people looking at you funny, people looking at you like you smell like doo-doo, and they got this expression on their face. Why? Because the team you have on the front of your chest sucks.
It's
Why?
sad.
All because you're your owner.
Let me ask y'all this. Does he have any incentive whatsoever to make this a winning team? If you're James Dolan, do
No,
you
I'm
have
gonna
any
tell you- I'm
incentive?
gonna tell you
Problem
why.
is he's making money
Right.
with the
He
team
just-
losing.
right.
That's
Off the
problem.
team and the garden itself.
Absolutely.
So he has no incentive to
So
sell
this
this team.
isn't like if you are a Knicks fan, like if you call yourself a Knicks fan, you're being done an absolute injustice.
Well, they tried. They went into the tank, and they were professional at the tanking. They just didn't get the ping pong balls. If they had gotten Zion Williamson, the whole conversation changes, but they didn't. And now R.J. Barrett, I think, is going to be a fantastic player, but does he have the superstar cachet yet? I don't know if the Knicks are going to be selling out road games like the Pelicans are going to be selling out road games when they travel the NBA this year.
No, they won't. And like I said, I love RJ, but I do feel sorry for RJ because that pressure, forget pressure playing at Duke. This is a whole nother kind of pressure playing in Madison Square Garden. You're playing in New York City. You're an 18-year-old kid, and you're walking into a situation where you don't know what you're about to get yourself into. They're going to expect you to be Michael Jordan. They're going to expect you to be Kobe Bryant. They're expecting you to be a transcending type of player off the bat at 18 years old. You don't deserve any of this. But that's what you just stepped into by no choice of yours. Well, even though he did say he would love to play in New York. So I do have to, hey, this is what you wanted. This is what you got.
Which one of these duos have to win? Right off the rip, I only think three. There are three that have to win. The Lakers have to win, or else this is just one of the biggest disasters in the history of American sports.
Home team, don't do this.
They have to win a
Put the
title.
pressure on them.
They have to win.
Please.
Don't do
The Rockets have to win. They have had different incarnations, and they keep running into the Warriors boogeyman. And they need to have trained professional counselors on staff if they run into the Warriors again in the postseason and go home with the long chin of losing again. They have to win. And I also think not this year, but the Nets have to win. That Kevin Durant, who was the biggest prize outside of Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion, eventually he's got to go because he still is going to have that stigma. He didn't get it done with his team in Oklahoma City. There'll be debate whether it was his team or Steph's team, a 70-plus win team that he went to in Golden State. Now he's got a chance with another future Hall of Famer in Kyrie Irving. He's got to get it done in Brooklyn. Those are the three duos that have to get it done.
Well, that first year in Brooklyn is a wash. Because,
not this year.
Right,
Of
right.
course.
You're just going to fall somewhere in the middle of the pack. Kyrie, I'm hearing somebody say Kyrie should just play like he at Rucker Park. Should just put it between his, put on a
good to
show.
me.
Let people know, give them a taste of what's to come. And then when KD's back in, back in the fold, now you're back in action. Brooklyn is back on the map. Yes, I do agree with the Lakers. We do have to win. Yes. And in the interview that he did with Rachel Nichols, Anthony Davis, when she asked him about the longevity, him being with the team, being one of the Laker greats, and he said he was just focused on this season, worry about that later. I understand he had to say that because it does him no good to commit long term. But deep down inside, it made me cringe a little bit because I'm like, we gave up a hell of a lot. We gave up the farm. And I don't even want to see the day we come to next offseason and he's really looking somewhere else to go. And I'm like, dog, we are in the bottom of the barrel again. So, yes, we got to win now. And then the Rockets.
Yeah, the Rockets have to get it done.
Well, they got to have two basketballs out there. Because I'm wanting to see how this is not the same James Harden and Russell Westbrook that was back in OKC.
It's a better James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So I'm sorry. I'm y'all. Everybody's doing that with them. Why do we not think that they could work?
Because Russell Westbrook cannot shoot.
He don't have to. That's
James
what James
Harden
Harden's
still
doing.
On a
doesn't play
shooting
defense.
team? Huh? He don't have to shoot on a shooting team.
He don't have to be the shooter. That's the whole point of you putting him with the shooting team.
So let me get this straight. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong. So I go from CP3, who is a nice shooter and a nice passer at that, which Russ is, and I bring in another guy who is much more athletic than Chris Paul, no doubt, but I drop off 10 to 15% in my three-point shooting percentage.
You don't want him for that. You want him for that athleticism. You want him to be getting to the bucket. You want him to get those dishes out to James Harden and everybody else on them threes. James Harden can still pull that shot up from anywhere, however he wants to. You act like he needs to have the ball in his hand. No, he just has had to.
Both players want the ball in their hand.
But he don't have to, and he doesn't have to have the ball in his hand. He's just the past few years, we've watched James Harden have to be the focal point of that team. Ever since he even got Dwight Howard, it's been his team. Now it puts him in a position where when it get kicked out, he could pump fake you. He could still do his step back and still drain a three. I don't see the problem. Defensively, I'm all with you, home team. But offensively, I don't see where this is going to be a problem.
Well,
here I am on my ledge. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's bad to add a former MVP. Certainly you're getting a good player. They like one another, so maybe the chemistry, part of the problem was the chemistry. Obviously, we found out after the season between CP3 and James Harden. So maybe playing with somebody you like a little bit more will help the on-floor chemistry. James Harden needs to get up off of the ball sometime, so turn it over to Russell Westbrook, who likes to put his head down and go in drive mode. Maybe he's able to set up Clint Capella. Maybe he's able to set up some of the other Rockets, but I will have to wait to see how much of an upgrade this is overall. Will they score as many points? They didn't get, to your point, a better three-point shooter. So what incarnation of the Rockets is this? They've tried it with Trevor Ariza. They've tried it with Dwight Howard. They've tried it with CP3. Now they're trying with James Harden added to the mix.
Russell Westbrook.
I'm sorry, Russell Westbrook. I'm trying to see if this is the upgrade that they need to get over LeBron and AD, Kawhi and PG-13. Get over the Warriors. I think one of the teams that's being overlooked is going to be the Warriors. They'll have no pressure on them this year, and I don't think they're going to fall off as far as people think, but the Rockets need to show me. They're just going to have to show me until I see them, get to the promised land and they're starting to close these games. I just don't believe in them.
One thing I can say is I admire Houston's GM so much. Daryl Morey does not give up. He has made move after move after move. He has literally come out and told that he has made it his life's plan to figure out a way to get past the Golden State Warriors, and he's not giving up on it. So as a fan of the game, I commend him on his chase for the elusive combination of a team to be able to get past them. But I don't think this is it. That combination, we talked a while back about, the best combination of two players in the NBA. If you could only pick two players, put them together, what would be the best combo you could come up with? This would be so far down the list in my opinion, just because they overlap. Their skill sets just overlap too much, and they don't cover enough bases by just having those two players.
And another thing is, they talked to D'Antoni as well about both guys altering their games from one another for the betterment of the team. And you're talking about a guy in James Harden who is not, I don't think, is going to alter his game for anybody.
The man shoots 24 times a game. Okay?
Yeah.
He's ball dominant. People are standing around. I applaud him for what he did when Clint Capella and Chris Paul went down, because him doing those things kept them above the line where they didn't have to fall lower in the Western Conference in their playoff season. So he put them in a position to be in a very good place in the postseason. That being said, he's going to have to stop shooting as much. He's going to have to move the ball. He's going to have to move himself and play defense a little bit better. And if he does not, how does he alter his game? Because the hibbity hop, stibbity stop, shot. Stibbity hop, stibbity stop, flop. That's what they're doing. And then they're repeating the process. So how does he alter his game? Is it just as simple as Russ needs to take over, which is basically what CP3 was saying? I need to run the offense a little bit. He needs to kind of run some action on the offside of the ball and let us get everybody else involved. How does he alter his game? How does he alter his game when he scored 36 points a game?
I don't know. Like I said, you're going to have to – there's going to be a new rule where Adam Silver says, if you – to your liking, if you would like to roll 2 basketballs out there during a point in time during the game, we will allow you to do so.
It's a progressive league.
It's very progressive. You have to figure out the logistics of how that's going to work.
Start in the G League first, then bring it to
But
the
you can work because these 2 guys, if there was one guy that I would think would give a little, it would probably be Russ, in a sense, because somebody would have to do it.
Yeah.
But I just don't think James, him coming off the season that he had, won the MVP the year before. This is what his game is precedented off of, the step back and the travel and then the shoot. Well, I call it travel. Y'all know how I feel about
the
that.
hippity hop is what I call it.
It's a travel. I don't care what they call it. They can name it whatever.
Right.
It's a travel. So that's what his game is based on. Right. It will be interesting now. This move is not, they'll win 50 games because they're a 50-win team and they'll be somewhere within the top 3 or 4 because that's just what you do in the regular season. I want to see how this is going to turn over in the playoffs. How is this going to work in the playoffs? That's what you make this move for, not for the regular season, because D'Antoni works magic in the regular season.
You stole it right out of my mouth, man. This makes more sense if D'Antoni is not your coach. D'Antoni is, I can't recall in coaching history as much of a lame duck going into a season. Like, first of all, you didn't renew my contract. You broke off talks as far as renewing and extending my contract.
Got rid of some of my staff.
Got rid of my top assistants. Then you bring in a player that clearly does not fit my system. And what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, but he's out there running around in front of microphones, having quotes like, we're not going to change much of the offense. Now, you have to start looking at the man at the top. And you kind of heard that, once the season was over, that you really can't blame. It's hard to place a lot of blame on one person, but, when he's calling plays and James Harden is doing kind of his own thing, it's hard for him to grasp that, take control and change things. He's got a player who's taking things outside of the playbook and doing his own thing. So some of it is him. He needs to call his star player into his office and say, hey, I'm going to need you to reduce this thing down from 24 shots a game to maybe 18. I'm going to need you to let Russell Westbrook take over like we weren't letting Chris Paul do. I'm going to have to put some of that on Mike D'Antoni.
You know what? I want to be on fly on that wall.
Yeah.
When he calls James Harden into that office, he says, go ahead and sit down. I want to talk to you for a minute. I'm going to need you to take your shot taking down from 24 down to about 17, 18. And I want to be in that office when he looks him dead in his eyes and he tells him that, just to see what his reaction will be. Right. I don't know if it's going to be anything pretty.
Okay, well, you're not going to be in the office for it, but I would just like to think that James Harden will be a little bit more open-minded to it, being that this is Russ.
You better than me.
This is one of his boys. This is somebody that he came up with. He was a rookie under Russ. You know what I'm saying? Saw his most successful years with Russ, right? So I would think he's going to be more open to that than with grandfather time CP3, who we've all kind of heard the rumbles about. He's not always the best leader for the team. He gives people a bad taste in their mouth. If that was the case with CP3 and Harden just finally just said, forget it, I'm going to shut him out, why wouldn't he be like, all right, I'll be open to it with Russ? And remember, it was working last year when they first got together. It was all good, right? At some point in time, you get that bad taste in your mouth. Now you're being petty and you're not getting that ball to CP3. I think he'll be more open to it when it comes to Russ because that's his guy.
I can be friends with somebody off the court. That could be my guy. And it's been a long time since I played with this individual. Things have changed. We've all gotten hardware.
One thing that hasn't changed about the basketball hoop is that it's still the same game. Pass it over, somebody make a bucket.
But
it's about who is making the bucket.
That has
not
something about
changed.
James Harden if he was not giving up the ball because he didn't like CP3.
That says a lot about him.
I think that says something. We're trying to win a title. You're trying to win a title, and we have enough talent, so we thought, to win a title. If you're not giving up the rock because you don't like a guy, to me that says something about the leadership of your floor general and the best player on your team.
Well, we can have that conversation anyways because I'm questioning the leadership or the floor generalness of him anyways because remember, we always say that he falls asleep in the playoffs, so there's already something up there mentally that hasn't been right. So why would it be a far shot for him to be a little petty? Like, to me, that's not that far. Well, but still, a weak-minded individual is still a weak-minded individual, and they're going to have those type of trends. That might be one of his, but we do know he's a great ball player, and if you put him in the right situation, he can flourish. Maybe like I said, I'm just a grass greener on the other side type of guy. I like what Russ and Harden and what they did back in the day. I would like to see if they can recreate it. I want to see that more so than what's going to happen with the Lakers. I think they're going to fall flat on their face, honestly.
Well, the good thing is we'll get a chance to see it
Sound like a
all
little
play
hate
out.
to me.
He from Oklahoma.
but real talk.
We put them out a time or two. We sent them home a time or two. That's a little salt. I get it. It's a little salt. That's all right.
Bring some personal stuff to the work.
That's a little salt. Hey, go get you some water and get that salt out of here.
Yeah. Curveball, didn't talk about this before, but this week, Coach Mike Krzyzewski came out and said that Zion Williamson should not have played in Summer League. He came out, had a short stint, ended up with a knee bruise, didn't make any of his shots from the field, ended up with 10 points. They all came on dunks. Said that he was not in shape to play with all of the media things, the SBs and other things he's been pulled to do. You all's thoughts on that? Big deal. Should he have played? We've seen, some other Trae Young and players that were drafted at the top of the draft, and typically we see young players at the top of the draft. R.J. Barrett, some of the other stars played this year, and should he have not played if he was not ready to go out there, or two, should he have been in better conditioning, knowing that he was going to play, and is that something to hold against him?
First of all, I think that he should have played in Summer League. I feel like that's a rite to passage somewhat, coming from college, going to the NBA. This is your first stop. Like we're not gonna throw you straight to the league. We're gonna make a stop in the Summer League, cut your teeth a little bit. But secondly, I think that's extremely stupid for Coach K to even come out to say.
Okay.
Where are you at in this process? This guy just left underneath your wing. If Zion is not in shape as of today, then there's no way that Zion was in shape as of 2 months ago when he was in your program. So I feel like that's almost kind of shining the light on you. What's going on at Duke? If he's not in shape today, was he in shape at Duke? And if he wasn't in shape at Duke, why were you playing him while he was at Duke and out of shape? I think that it will be an issue kind of moving forward. You're going to have to keep an eye on it.
I'll tell you why he was playing him if he was out of shape. Because a talent like that, on that stage, on that level, you can get away with a lot. You can get away with his level of talent compared to those other guys that you're playing against. Not saying those other guys aren't talented as well, but I can throw Zion out there with RJ and with Cam and roll that ball out there and say, let's roll with two other guys. And I can get away with him being somewhat out of shape for the simple fact that no one else out there of their skill set can challenge me enough to kind of put emphasis on the fact that, hey, I can tell he's out of shape.
He could get hurt against a bum.
Right.
I mean, so if that's the case, then Coach K is just as guilty as
he might be. But that's the reason. I would assume that's the reason, because I can roll him out there and say boom, 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 and then we can win the games and go as far as we did in the tournament. In the league, that's not going to work.
Right.
Because you're going up against other grown men.
Well, that's what Charles Barkley said. You can't play in the league at 280 pounds, which comes back to what we talked about, and a lot of people are talking about. We talked about it last podcast. Is there any concern about his weight? Is he a unique player who just has a unique physique and he can operate at the NBA level at his body type, or does he need to drop some lbs to make sure he is prepared for the long haul of being the face of the Pelicans or whatever franchise or franchises he ends up playing for? Seth Greenberg made a couple of comments during the broadcast when he was playing about his weight and how he looked like he was not in the best of shape. Are those concerns? He's only 19. He hasn't played one game game of a real game yet. He hasn't been around the training staff of the Pelicans for that long, so they know how to feed him. They'll know how to get his cardio up. Are these concerns, talking about all this before he plays his first game and he's 19 years old?
I think that the one thing that he does have on his side is that this is the first time in his young life that basketball and basketball only will be his focus. I think that's a good thing for him. If he's been able to become what he has become up to this point while juggling everything that kind of goes into, getting to this point, I think once you make it to the NBA and basketball is your job, I think that's going to pull a lot of things out of him and hopefully be able to, slim down as far as, getting in the best shape that he could possibly be in. This would be his first opportunity to do that. So I think that it's a lot on the line for him, and I think that he'll recognize and realize the fact that he's got to get on his stuff.
And I agree. With now you're transitioning from, even though basketball was his job
Right.
at Duke, he was in school.
Right.
Now that you're transitioning to the real world where your only job is to stay in shape and to get in shape to play on the hardwood, then I think there's another level of emphasis that you place on this, and you say, you know what, I have to be much more serious about my nutrition, the things that I intake, me working out, what workouts I need to do, what workouts I need to stay away from. So I think the transition sometimes can change the mindset of certain individuals. Certain individuals it doesn't. But Charles Barkley also said that he doesn't think that Zion is fat. He just thinks he's built differently. And even fat or not, built differently or not, like we talked about last week, I think the Pelicans have a big job. The medical staff has a huge job on their hands trying to manage a talent and a body like Zion Williamson.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Right now, I'm not concerned about it. He's young. Once he gets out there, it's going to probably take about 40 games to figure out what his pace is, what his stamina is. That will determine, how they need to monitor him moving forward. But I'm not really worried about it. It is something I think you have to be concerned, especially if he ever has to sit out, if he ever turns an ankle and he has to sit out and he can't get out there and run, how will his body react, those kinds of things. But right now, I wouldn't be worried about it. Just let the young fella go play. Everything he's been doing got him to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft. Lastly, how much or how big is Big Baller Brand balling? As we now have seen this week, LeVar Ball, and it's somewhat of an NBA story because he still has one more shot. He already has Lonzo Ball with the Pelicans. His youngest son, LaMelo Ball, he could end up drafted, could end up in the NBA. So LeVar Ball might be a part of the NBA family once again. But Big Baller Brand looks like they shut down the website. They had some internal strife. Alan Foster, did he take some money? Did he not take the money? I wasn't there. Lonzo Ball has severed ties with his dad's company. Why did he do that? A lot of questions. The tweet of the Big Baller Brand merchandise with $5 hats, a little bit disappointing for Big Baller fans.
It's just like any technology. I mean, it starts out real expensive, but then it's, available to the masses. So, I mean, I might go grab me a Big Baller Brand hat eventually, now that they...
You get two.
I can get two now. I can get two now. They was talking crazy prices at first with the slide, $500 slides. Like, bro, what I
be 2 for 10, ask them 3 for 12. What are y'all doing?
They need to add another B on that Big Ballin' on a budget brand. Like, seriously, man. Like, so, but seriously, man, I do commend those brothers for what they did.
Yes.
Like, they did something that a lot of people are scared to do.
Yes.
They've not only done the things that, that they've learned lessons from, but hopefully a lot of other people have been able to learn some lessons from their trials and tribulations as well. So I may poke fun at them every now and then, but in all honesty, I love seeing what they did. I hope they give it another shot. I hope we see Big Baller Brand back out there with the people. So I hope they're able to, overcome all of this and get it back out there, man.
I just want to know throughout that process, all the people that ordered things from them, especially the shoes, did they ever get them? Because there was a time where people were wondering, I had placed this order a month or so ago, and I still have not gotten my product.
I haven't heard any complaints. Now, there was a little slowness in the supply chain, I believe, initially, but I haven't heard anybody complaining that they got stiffed or the credit card was run and, they haven't gotten their shoes or their pullover. I don't know. Clearly, they have a lot of inventory left that they're trying to get rid of, and maybe they become collector's items. I'll be honest. I was with you, Book, because I thought it was something to be commended. Somebody started their own company. Yeah. They had a family member in the NBA. If Lonzo had been an all-star, how much would that have impacted their business? Had he not been hurt, how much would that have impacted their business? So I was, supportive of LeVar Ball. I'll be honest, it's personal, it's petty with me. He asked us to do some things. We covered them when they came here to Atlanta. Some promises were made to me and my partner, and they took a dump on us and then went down to other radio stations and used us to help us promote their product. Now that's $5 a hat. So when they get right with me, my partner Joe Hamilton on the Home Team and Hamilton show, he's a lot more forgiving than I. Once I get made whole, once they apologize for the things that they did to us, the promises broken, maybe I wouldn't be as petty as I am, but I'm kind of looking at it like he took his shot, now he's out of it. Maybe he'll get another chance when LaMelo gets a chance to come to the NBA. I'm not kicking a man while he's down. I never was buying it anyway. Good luck to you.
I think it's just you got to get your management team correct. It's too much squirming around, somebody doing this with money, taking this, taking that.
Did they learn anything? That's what
I don't know.
I would want to know if he got a second chance.
I hope.
And a relaunch Big Baller brand. Would you do anything differently?
Well, see, I'm going to tell you how I think LeVar will respond to that. I don't think we need to do anything different.
Oh, boy.
I think it worked out. What you mean do we need to do anything different?
It was Allen.
It was fine. We did everything.
Allegedly.
No, there may be some things we need to shuffle around, but it worked out. No, it didn't.
What if he sold the shoes for $200? I mean, people buy $200 shoes. He was selling shoes for $500.
Well, see, and I'm not knocking him. You set your price and you allow people to go out there if they want it, they'll pay for it. I don't know if people are buying those shoes for $200.
I've read articles where it costs $30 from start to finish to get a pair of shoes. Even if you sold them for $200, you're making a profit.
Right.
Could he get more in line with the market? I understand he wanted to go and make his very special. Has he learned anything? I would buy a $20 hat. I know people who would buy $150, $200 sneakers.
Right.
Would he do it all over again? $500, that's it. $50 for hats, $50 for T-shirts, that's it. You either buy it or you don't.
But I think it would be more beneficial, like you said, if Lonzo was an all-star.
I agree.
Then you could justify the $500 or $400 pair of shoes or the $50 hat because this is a brand that's attached to an all-star in the league.
Well, let's be real. Nobody's getting $400 or $500. Nobody's paying $400 or $500.
How much
I'm saying
is 300?
220s.
220?
Yeah.
So that's a name brand, established brand with an established company with Adidas is worldwide, and they're charging 3 times as much.
Don't add up. One thing I can't say as a
I haven't been to
dude,
business school. That's bad business to me.
They did progress in their products. I can't say that much. When they very first came out with the crazy price tags, even the merchandise didn't match that number. It's one thing to ask for an outrageous number, and then you see the merchandise, it's like, okay, I can see why you would ask for that. The merchandise was not up to that tier.
No.
One thing I can say that as once Zoe's second shoe came out, it was a lot nicer than the first.
Okay.
So they at least learned something in the design side of the house that it was a lot more aesthetically pleasing than the first shoe that came out, because you could have got that one anywhere with any type of logo on it, to be honest. But the second one, it looked a lot better. So at least if they do it again, hopefully they can kind of see the trend from 1 to 2 to where they continue to do it from 2 to 3.
We'll see if they do, because I know they're going to possibly want to relaunch it again and learn from their mistakes from the first time. And I hope that they do, because you want to see this time where you fix your mistakes. where you could be better. And you want to see brothers like that thrive. I want to see LeVar Ball thrive. I want to see Lonzo, whether he's in a Lakers jersey or not. I want to see those guys thrive because they stepped out on the limb to do something that a lot of people, especially people of color, won't do.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him taking that leap in what he did, and the fact that Lonzo has separated himself. He didn't want anything to do with it. To me, that said a lot. As passionate as his dad was about the product and the brand, and they got tons of free marketing and advertisement going on Fox Sports 1. Going on ESPN Radio, going on First Take. So they got a lot of free pub to kind of get them out there and into the open, and it didn't work out. They come back with a second version. Yeah, I could maybe think about having them back on our show again, just not right now. That'll do it for this version of the Drop Step podcast. Yes, I don't forget. I will forget, but I don't forget. We'll see you next time. Home team, B-Dog, Book the Hook. Want to say thanks to Houston as well, and to Amber. Thank you for her work behind the scenes. We have we used to give interns nicknames. Do we have a nickname for Amber yet?
Amber Alert.
Amber Alert.
Amber Alert.
A Boogie, Amber Alert.
A Boogie, Amber Alert.
All right, we'll work on that. I want to say good things to Shaq Fu Radio once again for their platform, and make sure you download, go to iTunes to go check out the podcast.
Also another platform added to where you can check us out, Spotify and Google Play. I think Google Play is coming soon if it's not up now. But Spotify and Google Play are platforms now added to the lineup where you can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play.
And we'll see you next time on the Drop Step Podcast.
Peace.
Make sure you comment, rate, and subscribe to the Drop Step Podcast on Apple Podcasts for iPhone users and Podbean for Android devices. You can also hear the podcast on Wednesdays and Saturday nights on the Shaq Fu Radio app.